Welcome to the eighth and final season analysis for the Vampire Diaries. Where to begin at the ending? First of all, I've greatly enjoyed my time in Mystic Falls. I've had a blast with this show. It's been a true roller coaster of not only philosophy but of romance and tenderness as well. I loved spending time with these characters, especially people like Bonnie Bennett and Klaus and Damon. I loved spending time with these people. Uh, really taught me so much in the way of postmodern art. And I think the Vampire Diaries has helped me view my own life differently. Because season 8, while I also don't think it's a very good season, I think it's better than season 7. Not by much. Like, that's nothing to brag about, truly. There is quite an eloquently stated thesis in the final episode called I Was Feeling Epic. I was feeling epic is a wonderful statement in and of itself. There's so much audacity to the Vampire Diaries that the final episode being called I Was Feeling Epic, and then even having Stefan say it to Lexi, like as he's dead, leaving the high school, which by the way is so powerful in and of itself, right? Postmodernism is leaving the teen drama, leaving the frameworks of narrative itself, and it's going to find peace. And it's like, well, that was beautiful. You sure caused a lot of quite a stir in that high school, in the high school teen drama narrative. What you did there was truly beautiful. And then the postmodern teen drama just shrugs and goes, "Well, I was feeling epic," and then they're gone forever. Like, that's really powerful too, but that's not the thesis that I'm talking about, the eloquently stated one, because ever since season 5, where they properly killed postmodernism, the finale of season 5. I loved season 5, by the way. Season 3 is still the best season. It probably goes 3, 2, 5, 1, 6, 8, 7. I think I missed 4 in there, but that's fine. I think 4 is kind of forgettable. But whatever. Four is somewhere in there. 4 is probably just, below 1 or something. I don't know. I don't even know if I said my ranking correctly. That's not the point. I keep getting off topic, off track here. The eloquent statement that it makes at the end is through Nina Dubrev's monologue, her voiceover. Uh, yeah, she comes back. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what she's talking about is peace, and the show is like aiming for not only a new sincerity but a new happiness as well. And it's about you find peace by finding each other again, either in this world or the next, either in this narrative or the next. And we carry the fragments of past narratives along with us, the ghosts of completed arcs along with us always. The ghosts of unfinished arcs even haunt us until we die. We are surrounded by the characters, the players, and the storylines that have made our lives what they are, because our lives, if they are anything, if we can say that they are anything in this postmodern, ultra-modern world, if we can say that they mean anything, our lives are narrative, and our personalities are the results of the narratives that we've experienced, the storylines we've experienced, the lovers, the friends, and the enemies, the battles, however large or small, that we've experienced. Like, that's what our lives are. Our lives are essentially diaries. You know, the Vampire Diaries is such an interesting title for this kind of television show, and I think Kevin Williamson and Julie Plec both experimented a lot with the title itself. Because I think the diary is narrative, and our lives are narrative, but the vampire is everything else about this world that tries to suck our lives dry of narrative. I think the cruelest thing that you can do to a person is to deprive them, to rob them of their arc, of their narrative momentum, of their love story, of their epic sort of love story. I think that's the most cruel thing and depraved thing you can do to anyone, honestly. Uh, and vampires, they suck the essence, the narrative, um, the energy of Diaries dry. I think the Vampire Diaries is about learning not only how to live with nihilism, but to reintroduce nihilism itself into a universe where even nihilism feels like a lonely stranger. Because you're never quite alone. You're never alone. You're always surrounded by the fragments and the ghosts of every experience you've ever had. And those experiences are stories and stories upon stories upon stories. The culmination of them, they become episodic, they become television. Diaries are televised. And I think the Vampire Diaries in its final episode makes a pretty striking and sincere, and I believe altogether genuine statement through Elena Gilbert. Yeah, it's actually really nice having Nina Dobrev back. The final episode is probably Elena at her most enjoyable for me because she is so insightful there, and I forgot how beautiful Nina Dobrev was as well. I don't know how you could forget. Maybe she just got more beautiful. So it was really nice seeing her. The whole Catherine Pierce thing I didn't need because her death in season 5. That's the best episode of the Vampire Diaries, where she died in season 5. So I really didn't need her back as the Queen of Hell. This season is kind of stupid. When taken as a whole, it's pretty dumb. It's just irritating because there are, I think, interesting ingredients. Sybil, the siren, aka holy fucking wow, so sexy. My fantasy. I don't even need to be brainwashed by her. I would kill for her regardless. I'm fine doing that. Sybil was really cool. I just think she was used in the worst possible ways. I didn't need the Vampire Diaries to go full Anne Rice on me. Like, Lestat fought the devil or whatever. I don't need Damon to fight the devil as well. I don't need the devil in Mystic Falls. I don't need that. It's audacious, sure, but I think there was a lot we could have done with the sirens, especially Sybil. Natalie Kelly was great. Uh, Super beautiful and super twisted. Like, we didn't really need Catherine Pierce because Sybil was occupying that sort of that kind of vixen, femme fatale, seductress, like, perfectly. We didn't really need Catherine Pierce back. Catherine Pierce is better than Sybil for sure, but I think Catherine Pierce's death um, was beautifully rendered and expressed and told in season 5, and they ran the risk of ruining that, bringing her back for the series finale. It wasn't ruined, which is good and a tiny miracle in and of itself. But we really didn't need her archetype at all because it was being occupied by Sybil, who was doing a great job. I thought Sybil was cool. I thought that Damon and Enzo being under her control were pretty cool as well. I like the dynamic where Enzo is like trying to fight it, you know? I like that a lot. Enzo is pretty cool here. This is probably Enzo's best season, hands down, no question. He was phenomenal this season. His storyline was kind of tortured, and I feel like there was a lot of passion to Enzo's storyline, and he was unbelievably tender towards Bonnie. I loved Bonnie and Enzo this season. Again, I think that they are epic, and I think they're really really interesting to invest not only your time but your emotions in as an audience member. I loved Bonnie and Enzo together, and Bonnie, of course, continues to be not only my wife but the greatest fucking character on the whole show. And I think from the first season all the way up to the last, she has the most truly expressed and realized arc out of everybody. Her standing there pushing back Hellfire, and then all of the other Bennett witches come up beside her and they push it back with her, and it speaks to that lineage, that lineage of the Black Witch, that lineage of the history repeating itself, or the past projecting upon the present, the history, the society, the spectacle, and all at once it transcends it as well, with all of them coming back. And it speaks to the show's primary sentimental thesis at the end, where everyone from your past are always with you, all of the narratives, and I assume that that's also by blood, especially since it's called the Vampire Diaries. Blood plays a rather primary role metaphorically. Your family are always with you as well because you carry the genetics of past storylines, familial ones, ancestral ones, the storylines of your ancestry. Uh, it would have been lovely to have Bianca Lawson there as well, but not everything can be perfect. Maybe nothing can be perfect, but that would have made Bonnie's storyline, her completion of her arc, one for the ages. If only Bianca Lawson were there. That's all it was missing. Emily Bennett, for those who don't share my shameless obsession and crush on Bianca Lawson. So even ends with Caroline opening up a school with Alaric, right? Like a school for gifted youngsters. It's like not even trying to hide it. It's like we are the X-Men. That's what we do now. We are the X-Men. I thought the weakest points of the show involved the devil, Cade. I didn't really dig on the mythology that the show built up around the character, and I don't feel like it added anything philosophically to the weight of the show in general. Um, Surprisingly, I loved Sybil. If we could have made Sybil the primary antagonist and not kind of like ditched her near the end for Cade, I think that was a Hail Mary pass, and it didn't land this time. It did not land. We should have just kept with Sybil and kind of explored more of her character because I think there was a lot more to her. And then they were saying interesting metaphorical things to her, like in the first episode. They hadn't like met her yet. It's just this like vat of blood in this dingy, dark, dimly lit like warehouse. And I remember Enzo was like, "How much blood do you need? How many sacrifices do you need? We're getting tired. We're exhausted. How much blood do you need?" And a large part of me feels like that is the Vampire Diaries, this kind of titan, this behemoth of the teen drama art form, speaking to the genre itself that birthed it, being like, how much how much melodrama do you need? How many broken hearts do you need? How many insecurities do I need to feed you with until you're satisfied? And perhaps the audience are that vat of blood at that moment. Um, Metaphorically, and then it changes when Sybil comes out at the very end of the episode, and Sybil is that siren song that draws insecure and heartbroken or lovelorn young people, young men and women to the genre itself, or the archetype that draws all of the other archetypes to that specific sort of narrative system. I think it's very impressive, and through Sybil, we could have been able to do a lot of investigations. Um, into realms of narrative and sincerity and nihilism as well, and sexiness, because sexiness is a huge part of the Vampire Diaries, and I've always admired the show for its sexiness. We could have done a lot of investigation there, uh, a lot of explorations and experimentations that we came so close to doing, like when Sybil was trying to get complete control over Damon. She knew that Elena was still in his head, occupying his very spirit, his soul, his true wants and desires. And she would go in there and replace Elena with herself. And that is saying a lot about narratives too, and about how they can be invaded upon. About how invasive antagonistic elements truly are, how new villains can come to evacuate the role of the savior within all of us, our own personal saviors, our own personal loves. Um, Narratives can be changed, and they can be changed viciously. The girl that defines your entire universe can be replaced by a woman who wants to destroy it pretty easily. False remembrances of impactful narratives. Like Sybil was a pretty good villain, especially if you view Diaries, like me, and you kind of see it as not an experimentation with narrative, because that's what Pretty Little Liars was. And The Vampire Diaries is much better than Pretty Little Liars. Like season 3, 2, and 5, I would say are masterpieces. It's not an experimentation. It's a transcendence of narrative. It's a transcendence of postmodernism. It's even a transcendence of sincerity itself until we can get to a new happiness. Because happiness is truly the goal of sincerity, right? Happiness is truly the goal of narrative. Happiness um, is truly the goal of our lives. We would like to be happy because through a meaningful sort of happiness, through a significant happiness, we can actually enjoy experience of life itself, the experiential qualities contained therein. So at this same exact time, while Pretty Little Liars was experimenting with narrative and basically experimenting with all of the mechanics of communication and of plot threads and of archetypes, um, in dastardly and like pretty evocative ways. Vampire Diaries were trying to transcend narrative altogether and provide a very sensitive antidote to loneliness, to heartbreak, and to heartache. You know, it was trying to provide an antidote for kind of puzzling times that the 2010s proved to be to a lot of people, not just young people, but to a lot of people. The 2010s were a very weird kind of time. I think a very heartbroken sort of age. I had so much fun in Mystic Falls. And even though I would call season 7 the worst season, I don't think it's very good. Season 8, also not good, but it was interesting, and they did wrap things up. I do think that the writing's pretty bad, pretty weak, pretty lazy. I do think that the mythology is so convoluted that it's very difficult to feel attached to it, to feel invested in it, especially when it centers around hell and hellfire and Cade. Like, I don't care. I can't be compelled to care. I can't bring myself to care about those sorts of things because the way that it's presented is kind of distanced because the plot at that point and the characters within it and all of the beats had become so convoluted and um, pretty stupid. You know, like it's difficult to connect with that sort of thing, but I do appreciate the statements it made throughout the show, but especially in the finale, I was feeling epic. I guess I appreciate the final 10 minutes of I was feeling epic because everything leading up to it is pretty dumb. Like even Vicky coming back and ringing that bell. We've already had closure with Vicky. I love seeing Vicky. Kayla, you are awesome. You're an all star. I love you, but we didn't need that. At all. We didn't need any of those characters to come back. We didn't need Kai to come back. Kai also like very entertaining this season. I very much so love on a deeply analytical level the fact that the last time we see him, he is chained to a chair on a karaoke stage being tortured by 90s one hit wonders. Like, that is a postmodern torture room that I couldn't even come up with. I couldn't come up with that at all. It's very brilliant because it's two princes, right? You know, just two before you. So what I said now, no one knows the words to that, so don't make fun of me. But we didn't really need Kai. We didn't need a lot of these people. Vampire Diaries is pretty efficient and pretty capable and pretty trustworthy when it comes to completing arcs. Like, even in season 3, I thought one of the most brilliant things about it was like the Ghost World arc, where they brought back Anna and Vicky and a couple other ghosts to finish their character arcs. The Vampire Diaries is a show that's devoted to completing character arcs. So bringing back all these characters, like, actually, you guys completed your arcs, and it's not necessary to engage with you anymore right now. Really didn't serve too many other purposes than it kind of just tried to remind the viewer of remember when the show was better, and it's always dangerous when a television show does that. And a lot of television shows do. Remember when we were a better show, it kept saying, especially with constantly reminding us of Elena. Constantly. Like, remember when we were a great show? That very fortunate that this is the final season of the Vampire Diaries because the next one would have been embarrassing. But as we have it, these 8 seasons I think are fascinating. I think they're fascinating works of art, and by engaging with them, you're not only able to engage with yourself on with your attractions, with your shadow archetypes, with those more shadowy parts of your dimensions. You're also able to interact with, I think, within the context of the show, art as a whole, and how art interacts and communicates with viewers. I think you're able to engage with the Vampire Diaries in that respect as well. But I think the most important way to interact with the Vampire Diaries is by kind of leaving your own mark within the diary itself, leaving your own entry, so to speak. That way, every time you revisit the Vampire Diaries, it's as if you are revisiting your own diary. I think it's a very good and wise decision to be very open and private and personal with the show itself. And I think that's what a lot of young people do when they watch shows anyway. So I think for a lot of young people, when they revisit the Vampire Diaries, in their 20s or 30s, they are, for all intents and purposes, rereading old diary entries and possibly even revising them. They are revisiting themselves in a sort of dynamic becoming. Because unlike a lot of teen dramas, I feel that The Vampire Diaries is not static being. The Vampire Diaries is dynamic becoming. And that's possibly the greatest compliment I could ever possibly give to a television show. So, Mystic Falls, thank you for having me. I've loved staying here. Mystic Falls, this was a great place for me to be, and it's where I needed to be at this point in my life. I'm very happy I went to Mystic Falls, very happy I analyzed every season of the Vampire Diaries. I am extremely fortunate to have interacted with Bonnie Bennett, and Damon Salvatore, and Klaus, and even Elena Gilbert, but especially Catherine Pierce. Very happy to interact with her. My God. Um, very happy to have played with the themes that the show was presenting to me. I'm very fortunate that I was able to watch and analyze and cover the Vampire Diaries, and I'm also fortunate that you watched my videos, that you also got something out of my insight, what I was saying or what I was trying to provide to you, because I think there's a lot of very interesting things with the Vampire Diaries. And I think it might be a show that keeps on giving, something borrowed, something blue, every me and every you. I think it's a show that attained brilliance the hard way through philosophical transcendence, through a relentless amount of sexiness, through a nihilistic cool that could only be heated by the lips of sincerity itself. The Vampire Diaries dazzled me, and thank you for watching my videos about it.